In the early 1800s, under Napoleon, France was one of the strongest and most feared military powers in Europe. Many French people had been very proud of this history, but by the late 1800s, much of this national pride had been lost. In 1870, the French were beaten by German forces in the Franco-Prussian War. After this defeat, Germany took 2 areas of land from France, the rich coal, steel and glass production regions of Alsace and Lorraine. These areas were not just valuable pieces of land, but their loss was a bitter blow to French pride. From this point on, many French people wanted revenge against the Germans. By the early 1900s, farming was still one of France's main industries, and around 40% of the population were farmers. Although there were also many factories producing goods that were traded all over the world, France could not match the industrial output of Germany and Britain. However, France rivaled any country in the world in science, technology, and culture. Paris was the center of the world fashion industry. Many of the world's most famous writers, painters, and musicians lived and worked in France. French food was viewed by many as the finest in the world. Frenchman Louis Pasteur made remarkable breakthroughs in the causes and prevention of diseases. Whilst working in France, Pierre and Marie Curie did pioneering work on radioactivity, paving the way for scientists in later years to work on cancer treatments. France led the world in the development of cinema, aeroplanes, motorcars, and motorcycles. France did not have a ruling royal family like many of the other leading European powers. It was a republic, a nation ruled by an elected president with the help of elected politicians. Many of France's army generals also had lots of political power, and not only held high-ranking positions in the army, but held important jobs in the government too. Many French politicians had a long-standing hatred for Germany and wanted revenge for the Franco-Prussian War. Some government policies brought in during the early 1900s were concerned with increasing the size of France's army and navy. These policies were a result of a long-standing fear of German attack. The French Empire was the second largest behind the British Empire. At the outbreak of war in 1914, after years of expansion in the late 1800s, the French controlled around 11 million square kilometers of land and nearly 60 million people, mainly in West and North Africa and in Southeast Asia. France was one of the world's leading trading nations as a result of the size of its empire, but it was beginning to fall behind many other nations, including Britain and Germany, in the production of goods and materials such as iron, coal, steel, ships and food. Also, despite being twice the size of Britain and around the same size as Germany, France's population was less than both of those nations, and was shrinking every year.